A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 99th episode of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Over the last year, it has been our privilege to play host to some fantastic discussions. Eminent dignitaries from the world of education, from India and the world over, have congregated on this platform, today being the 99th episode, and we have heard fantastic views, insightful analysis, and incisive discussions on a range of topics. Topics that ranged from curricular to extracurricular, topics that were topical to the pandemic situation that was going on. More than a year later, today when I invite you to our 99th episode, it gives me immense pleasure and pride. And for that, I have to thank each and every one of you. Today we look at a topic that's very topical just this week. We know earlier this year, the CBSE decided to cancel the Class 10 board exams. Recent circular has put in lieu of that a system of internal assessment, which by all counts has not been made amply clear to a lot of the educators out there. Today, we are trying to decode that proposed internal assessment system for our board year students. Our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. He served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And it is our privilege to have him at Notebook as a senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for joining. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubayu, for that introduction. And a very good evening to all the Notebook team in Calcutta. This is an interesting topic, and we have a very illustrious panel. So I'm going to be very brief and get out of the way. Let me start by saying that most Indian school boards examine students in two ways. One is the annual examination, which is held at the end of the year, and which carries about 80% weightage. And the second is a project or a practical component, which is done through the year, and it is assessed internally. Sometimes there's an external examiner present, but this carries about 20 to 30% of the total mark weightage. This year, due to the continuing pandemic and the second most serious wave, the CBSE first decided to cancel the Class 10 exams and then, of course, to postpone Class 12. Now, in a new directive, they have decided to assess students based on project and practical work between the 1st of March and the 11th of June, which they always do, but to also introduce an internal assessment criteria, which is very unfamiliar and which is going to come as a shock to some of our students. Some leading schools are sending in their ideas and suggestions of good ways in which to conduct these internal assessments. And very soon the council will be circulating the rules and requirements for all schools to follow in order to do this internal assessment. Now, I know that examinations have been the bane of every student and teacher, but whatever shape and style an exam takes, they are a necessary evil, as they do inform the teacher of the student's ability and standing, whether he has learned enough in the year to move on to the next level. And for a student, it is a measure of his personal success and informs the student how much he has learned and what his weaknesses and strengths are, even to the extent of letting him know where his aptitudes lie and what sort of jobs he might go in for later. So in short, examinations are important and necessary to a study program. They do have their place and value. The fact is that in India, they test only rote skill mainly and the ability to retain what they've learned in school. They don't actually test creativity, problem solving, these sort of things that most international boards test. And of course, this year, sadly, they've been cancelled. Now, the introduction of the project component for the exam was a good idea. Came in about, I think, 20, 15 years ago. But the science students, it was practical work. And for the humanities student, it was project work. Not only did this help the students who might not have been good at cramming the year's work, or simply not very good at or competent at a subject, but it helped students who might have been ill and not, ill disposed to make that magic mark of 40%. It also ensured that students worked consistently through the year and did not depend on those last 2 months where they turned to tutors to cram. But on the other hand, one has to ask whether these projects, which were internally marked and graded by the school itself, were done fairly, and whether the projects were actually done by the students or were they bought by somebody else. I did learn one year that there were agents out there in town that actually were selling ready-made ICSE projects. So what was the value of these? And yet, some schools did make sure that the project work done was done in class time, so the teacher could supervise and see the progress over the year. And that would remove the element of cheating or having the project plagiarized. Yet there were schools that I'm afraid did not take this project work very seriously. Now, I have been an internal examiner for both the class 12 and the class 10 exams, and I could make out from project work whether they were original or whether they were just lifted and plagiarized. Other thing is, most project work is very boring and very similar, very, very tedious to go through. So in short, while project work might be a good idea, they do not always give a true picture of a student's ability. And so, it has to be done properly to be of any value. One change I would recommend is that instead of giving one project to be internally assessed, there should be a number, maybe 4 to 6 smaller projects. Maybe they could be finished in 2 to 3 weeks on various aspects of the syllabus, which the student does as self-directed study. And these topics should not be then tested in the final exam. So you reduce the load. Now, this year, in the absence of exams, the student is going to be assessed on his or her project and practical work, as mentioned earlier. But there's another new component. The third component is the internal assessment, which in my view sounds like assessing a student's work, class tests, all written work through the year, oral work done in the course of the year. But to be effective, internal assessments have to be planned beforehand, and the framework and grade boundaries must be made clear to students well in advance. This work should complement the work done in class and should be more research-based and individualized so that the plagiarism is kept to the minimum. Internal assessment work must begin in the first month of the year and be an ongoing effort to be checked over 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, to make sure that the student is continuous, doing his work consistently. A recognized form of internal assessment is for teachers to assess students' daily performance over the year on such parameters like, does he show interest? What is his initiative? Depth of research? How does he ask questions? How many questions are being asked? Extra work produced over and above the syllabus. How does he do his homework? How involved is he with the class or she with the class? These are parameters on which the internal assessor grades students over the year. To suddenly announce that due to the cancellation of exams, students will be assessed on work done over the year, and in a manner that the board decides how they will be assessed, is a bit of a surprise. And I think in a way unfair to the children, to the school and the teachers. While it may be the only means by which some sort of ad hoc assessment may be done in the absence of anything better, this form of assessment will have its shortcomings. And I will list a few shortcomings. It would lead to intense stress and worry on already stressed out students who are worried about colleges and courses and probably somebody in the family with the pandemic, with the COVID. Many students may have lost or misplaced the work done through the year. It could lead to copying, plagiarism, grabbing other people's work. It would not give an accurate estimate of a student's ability. Because all forms of internal assessment will involve some degree of subjectivity, which the board wishes to minimize by sending out guidelines so that it's more objectively assessed. But there are different types of schools in India. The range of types of CBSE schools in India, from the very elitist, high-paying, to the village schools and the small town schools, which are holed up in small buildings. There's so many types of schools. It would be unfair for all schools to follow the same assessment protocol. Also, would schools and teachers have the time to meet the criteria for internal assessment as laid out by the CBSE? Would they have all those class tests, all those records of the quizzes, multiple choice tests, and whatever other ways the teacher used to assess the students over 1 year? They could be lost, all those files. Another name that you could give these assessments is continued assessments. Continued assessments, by the name itself, means that the student is assessed gradually through the year. So he knows how he is progressing. To assess them all in one go at the end of the year would be a mammoth task. The question of whether the colleges they apply to would accept these internal assessment grading is another question. How would colleges accept students this year? And it is now too late to introduce external examiners, obviously. So all assessments would have to be done internally by the school. And that would throw up the whole question of integrity and honesty, because most schools want to do the best for their students. And there may be a huge marks inflation. I would like to end by saying that while internal assessments are a good way to complement exams and contribute a certain percentage to the total marks, it must be well planned, clearly explained to the students, and the assessment must be based on a clear set of criteria and grade boundaries. I would ideally like to see 70% being tested by internally assessed projects, which is done throughout the year, and only 30% tested by an end of term exam. For starters, that would really reduce the stress that students face at the end of the year and that cramming in the last 2 months. However, in this strange pandemic situation we find ourselves in, this decision taken by the CBSE may have been the only way forward despite its many shortcomings, because one cannot leave one cannot leave it to each school to follow its own internal assessment. It would throw standardization out of the window and everybody would get high marks between 97 and 100%. They say sometimes the best is the enemy of the good. And so in order to assess our students in some uniform way, our schools will have to follow the CBSE guidelines, and teachers would have to now do something about assessing students based on their last 12 months' work. With that, Sabayu, I'm going to hand this over to you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you raised some very valid concerns about our whole assessment system in general. This point of standardization that you raised is an interesting one, because the circular that CBSE has now sent out does outline some rather interesting methods of standardization, which I'm sure the panel that we have today would dive into. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to bring on the second speaker we have today. Our second speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia, and also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubhai, am I audible?
You're audible, Achin, but the lighting seems to be very low at your place. Much better.
Okay. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which has been at the center stage of discussions. Over last few weeks, be it esteemed educators, tensed students, or concerned parents, everyone has been discussing the various practical nuances and the implications of this. Today, we have a very experienced panel here. Burrett shared his own perspective. Post my deliberation, we also have a very experienced panel of educators here who definitely express their insight into this contemporary topic. I will keep my deliberation more holistic and try to share some thoughts about assessments, with regard to their standardization around the globe, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now, when we coming to the standardization part, when we say standardized test, we would all agree that it's a test that is administered and scored in a consistent or standard manner. Thus, these tests are designed in such a way that questions, conditions for administering the test, scoring procedures, and interpretations are consistent and are administered and scored in a predetermined, transparent, and standard manner. Now, any test in which the same test is given in the same manner to all test takers and graded in the same manner for everyone is a standardized test. Not necessarily it needs to be a high-stake test or a time-limited test or a multiple choice test. It may be any type of test. It may be a written test, it may be an oral test, or a practical skill performance test. But I think the essence is same set of questions for everyone, same evaluation criteria, etc. Questions can be simple or complex. Now, the subject matter among school-age students is frequently academic skills, but a standardized test can be given on nearly any topic. Say we were discussing about practical skills. So say, for example, a topic like driving test, something like creativity, athleticism, personality, professional ethics, or other attributes. Naturally, the opposite of a standardized test would be a non-standardized test, in which either significantly different tests are given to different test takers, or the same test is assigned under significantly different conditions. Example, one group is permitted far less time to complete the test than the other group, or evaluated differently. Thus, the definition of a standardized test has also changed, over a period of time. In 1960s, for example, standardized tests were defined as those in which the conditions and content were equal for everyone taking the test, regardless of when, where, or by whom the test was given or graded. The purpose of this was to make sure that the scores reliably indicate the abilities or skills being measured, and not other things, such as, for example, different instructions about what to do if the test taker does not know the answer to a particular question. By the beginning of 21st century, now we are discussing about 60s, now fast forward to the beginning of 21st century, the focus shifted away from a strict sameness of condition towards a equal fairness of condition. For example, a test taker with a broken wrist might write more slowly because of the injury, and it would be more equitable and produce a more reliable understanding of the test taker's actual knowledge if that person were given a few more minutes to write down the answers. Because the objective is, in this particular case, is to assess the knowledge. However, if the purpose of the test is to see how quickly the student could write, then this would become a modification of the content and no longer a standardized test. Now we were discussing about driving as a practical skill test. For example, each driving student is asked to do the same thing, and then they're all evaluated by the same standard. Standardized test. Now non-standardized, some driving students have to drive on a highway, but others only have to drive slowly around the block. Or for example, music, audition. Now, standardized test. All musicians play the same piece of music. The judges agreed in advance how much factors such as, for example, timing, expression, and musicality count for. Now what? If, let's give example of a non-standardized test. Each musician chooses a different piece of music to play. Judges choose the musician they like best. And say one judge even goes as far as giving extra points to a musician who actually wears a costume. So non-standardized evaluation criteria. Now coming to, we were discussing about, how over a course of history this has evolved. Now, if we look at it, then we understand that imperial examination, the whole concept of trying to standardize test, started in China. The earliest evidence of standardized testing was during the Han Dynasty in China, where the imperial examination covered 6 arts. There were 6 different arts. Now, what were they? Music, archery, horsemanship, arithmetic, writing, and knowledge of the rituals and ceremonies of both public and private ones. These engagements were used to select employees for the state bureaucracy. Later, at later point of time, sections on military strategies, civil law, revenue, and taxation were added. Even agriculture and geography were also added subsequently. In this form, the examinations were institutionalized for more than a millennium. Now, in today's China, standardized testing remains widely used. I'm sure many educators in this forum, many esteemed educators are familiar with Gaokao, uniform entrance level at the undergraduate level for all students. Now, Chinese students, they prepare for this exam for more than 10 years. And irrespective of what they want to study, any particular stream they want to go to, and irrespective of which particular province they reside, this is a common entrance exam before entering college. Now, this particular exam, Gaokao, which is one of the largest exams in the world, is conducted over 2 to 3 days. And total test duration is somewhere around 9 to 10 hours. So we see the modern form of standardization. Now, coming to UK, standardized testing was introduced in Europe in the early 19th century. Now, this was modeled on the Chinese Mandarin examinations. We were discussing about China. And one of the earliest advocates of standardizing testing in the British colonial administrators was Britain's Consul General in China. He was based out of Guangzhou. His name was Thomas Taylor Meadows. And he warned of the collapse of British Empire if standardized testing was not implemented throughout the empire immediately. Now, imagine the kind of stress he gave to this particular topic. Now, prior to the adoption, standardized testing was not traditionally a part of Western pedagogy, because if you look at Western pedagogy, based on the skeptical and open-ended tradition of debate, because that's something which is very inherited from ancient Greece. Western academia always favored non-standardized assessments using essays written by students. It is because of this that the first European implementation, when we discuss about European implementation of standardized testing, did not occur in other parts of Europe, but it started in even Britishers, when they first implemented it, they started by implementing it in British India. They didn't implement it in mainland Britain. they first implemented it in India. Inspired by the Chinese use of standardized testing, in the early 19th century, British company managers hired and promoted employees based on competitive examinations in order to prevent A, corruption, and B, favoritism. This practice of standardized testing was later adopted in the late 19th century by the British mainland. The parliamentary debates that ensued during that particular period made many references to the Chinese Mandarin system. And it was from Britain that standardized testing spread, not only throughout British Commonwealth, but to Europe and then US as well. Also, I guess one of the major reasons was, the spread was fueled by the Industrial Revolution, which played a very big role. The increase in number of school students during and after Industrial Revolution, as a result of things like, for instance, compulsory education laws, decreased the use of open-ended assessments, which was harder to mass produce and assess objectively. Because, the moment it's open-ended assessment, there's an intrinsic subjectivity attached to it. British soldiers took standardized tests during the Second World War. This new recruit does, for instance, new recruits, soldiers, sorting mechanical parts in order to, the objective was to test their understanding of the machinery. And evidence suggests that when such kind of tests were taken, there was the soldier's uniform did not show any name or any rank or any other sign that might bias the scoring of his work. The objective was to ensure neutrality. Standardized tests such as War Office selection boards were developed for the British Army during the Second World War to choose candidates for officer training and other tasks. Now, the tests looked at soldiers' mental abilities, mechanical skills, ability to work with others, and other qualities. Previous methods had suffered from bias and resulted in choosing the wrong soldiers for officers training. Now, from China, then UK, then Poland, because we were discussing about other parts of Europe. Young adults in Poland sit for their common entrance exam called Matura. The Matura is a standardized test so that universities can easily compare results from students across the country. Now, coming to US, standardized testing has been a part of American education since the 19th century. But I guess the widespread reliance on standardized testing in schools in US is largely a 20th century phenomenon. And I guess immigration in the mid 19th century contributed to the growth of standardized tests in US. Because standardized tests were used when people first entered the US to test A, social roles, and B, also to find social power and status. The College Entrance Examination Board did not offer standardized testing for university and college admission until 1900 in US. The first examination was administered in 1901 in nine subjects. The test was implemented with the idea of creating standardized admission for US in mainly northeastern elite universities. Originally, the test was also meant for top boarding schools in order to standardize the curriculum. Originally, the standard test was made of essays and not intended for widespread testing. However, during World War I, if we look at historical evidence, during World War I, the Army alpha and beta tests were developed to help place new recruits in appropriate assignments based upon their assessed intelligence levels. Now, the first edition of a modern standardized test for IQ, if we look back, was the Stanford and Binet intelligence test, which appeared in 1916. The College Board then designed, and which is still very popular, SAT, Scholar Aptitude Test. In 1926, this started, SAT. The first test, the first SAT, was based on, it was pretty much based on Army IQ test, with goal of determining test takers' intelligence, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking. In 1959, Everett Lindquist offered the ACT, American College Testing, for the first time. I'm sure SAT and ACT, I think that, educators in this forum are very much familiar with. So a lot of their students going for higher studies, etc. As of 2020, the ACT Act includes 4 main sections with multiple choice questions to test English, mathematics, reading, and science, plus an optional writing section. Now, individual states began testing large number of children and teenagers through public school system in 70s. By the 80s, American schools were assessing nationally. So we started from China, went a step forward to UK, we discussed about Poland, then about US. Now coming to Asia Pacific back again, Australia. In Australia, it's a very relatively recent phenomenon, I'll say, because standardized testing was introduced or commenced in the year 2008. So by the Australian curriculum, Assessment and Reporting Authority, which is an independent authority responsible for development of national curriculum. Now the testing includes all students in years 3, 5, 7, and 9 in Australian schools to be assessed using national tests. The subject covered in this testing in Australia include reading, writing, language conventions, like for instance, spelling, grammar, and punctuation, and numeracy. The program presents student level reports designed to enable parents to see their child's progress over the course of schooling life and help teachers to improve individual learning opportunities for their students. Now, students and school level data are also provided to appropriate school system on the understanding that they'll be used to target specific support and resources to school, which actually need them the most, so that there's an uniformity or parity in terms of quality. Now, from Australia, we again go back to Colombia. In Colombia, for instance, in 1968, the Colombian Institute of Evaluation of Education was born to regulate higher education. And today, if you look at it, students in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 9th grade take an exam, and that's called SABER 359 exam. This test is currently presented on a computer in controlled and census samples, and all students across the country, they take this. Upon leaving high school, students present the SABER 11 that allows them to enter different universities in the country, again uniform exam. Students who study at home can take this exam to graduate from high school and get their degree certificate or diploma. Students leaving university now, so we discussed about SABER 3, 5, 9, then SABER 11, and students while leaving universities must take the SABER Pro exam, which is a professional version of it. So from Colombia, we'll not go too far. Now let's look at Canada, for instance. Now Canada, being a nation of immigrants, people from all over the world going in, so naturally the requirement of standardization is immense. Now Canada leaves education and standardized testing as a result under the jurisdiction of provinces. Each province has its own province-wise but very standardized testing regime, ranging from, there are some provinces where standardized tests are not required. For example, students in Ontario, to states like Newfoundland and Labrador, where exams worth 50% of final school grades are standardized. So this is a little bit a sneak peek into what has happened around the world in terms of standardization. So I wanted to share this relevant information with you, which I thought will be very relevant and interesting. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Today we have a very interesting and insightful topic, very contemporary as well. And I really look forward to our esteemed panel in order to understand, their take on this very important topic. Thank all of you. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for taking us around the globe on the various forms of standardized testing that exists. Ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we have a fantastic panel lined up for you today. Each of them an expert in this particular aspect of testing, the currently proposed internal assessment system for our class 10 board year students. Before we move on to our guest speakers, I'll just take a couple of minutes to tell you about Notebook. Notebook is an online education product. We make short videos that pertain to the school syllabus, covering every topic right from classes 1 through to class 12, from every subject. What this means is when you're taking your class, you can refer to these videos or send these videos to your students for them to develop a more visual understanding of any topic that you're about to teach. The students also have access to the same videos on their personal devices, which means that months later, they can get reminded of what you taught in class that day by looking at that same video on their personal laptop or smartphone or whatever device they have at home. I will now play you a short clip of one of the Notebook videos before we move on to our guest speakers.
Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah was an important and respected member of the court of the Mughal ruler Farrukh Siyar. He was appointed as the governor of first Awadh and then the Deccan region. The capital of the Mughal rule was in Delhi. So it was difficult for the Mughal rulers to control or administer far-off regions like the Deccan. The Deccan region was facing economic and administrative problems. Nobles were fighting amongst each other for power. Around this time, Asaf Jah took control of the region and changed its political and administrative structure by making new policies. He brought soldiers, administrators and mansabdars from North India and gave them responsibilities in the Deccan. He still served the Mughal Empire, but he had the right to make his own decisions. The Mughal ruler just confirmed his decisions. Thus, Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah founded the state of Hyderabad. The British were also gaining power in the Deccan around this time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a small segment of one of our videos. You would find more than 10,000 such videos on our website, www.notebook.school. Well, with that out of the way, it is now time to introduce our first guest speaker. Our first guest speaker today is Mr. Neeraj Mohan Puri. Mr. Puri is the principal of the Satyug Darshan Vidyalaya in Faridabad. He is currently pursuing his PhD in management, HR, part-time from Lovely Professional University. He is also the founder of an NGO, Goal Foundation, Global Organization of Academic Leaders. He has also been the CBSE District Training Coordinator for Pathankot. He has received a Certificate of Brilliance from Honorable HRD Minister, Mrs. Smriti Zubin Irani. He has been a CBSE resource person. He has been decorated with Education Icon Award 2020 by ICSI. He has been awarded Global Teachers Award 2020 by CED Foundation and conferred the Dronacharya Award 2019 by Punj Foundation. He has also been the recipient of Visionary Leader 2018 Award. Sir, it's our privilege to have you here today. Over to you.
A wonderful evening to all the distinguished and lovely people present over here on this virtual platform. Indeed, it's a pleasure and I'm overwhelmed to Notebook to make me part of this star-studded panel. I have been very patiently hearing the views, the insights which has been put in by Achinji and Honorable Philip sir. So to start, since the whole discussion today is revolving around examinations, assessments, standardization, evaluation, I would love to start with a small couplet which is very close to my heart. It is, इम्तिहानों के दौर ने बना दिया एक नायाब हीरा हमें इम्तिहानों के इस दौर ने बना दिया नायाब हीरा हमें ना खाते ठोकरें तो आज हमारा वजूद ही एक मामूली से पत्थर जैसा होता है. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Neeraj Mohan Puri. Thank you, Mr. Rai, for your wonderful introduction. See, when you talk about education, it is actually a potent tool which bridges the gap between the poverty and the prosperity. and I'm sure you all will agree with me. Now, if you will run down your memory lane, ever since the time immemorial, the role of education, its pedagogy, its objectives have been changing with the civilizations. And of course, as Philip sir has rightly put, and I second his views and opinions that examination are necessary evil. It has to be there to gauge the performance of a child. But with the changing times, the paradigm of education is changing. And what the topsy-turvy changes, what the tumultuous changes the globe has seen, especially with respect to the education sector, we had not imagined such changes at such meteor speeds. And I must admire and appreciate, as well as put it on record, the way Indian educationists have adapted, evolved, surrendered to change, and how at a robust pace they upgraded them. This is something I call it as blessing in disguise. Had this pandemic not hit, 50% of, if I'm not wrong, 50% of the dear educators would have signed out of this planet without upskilling and upgrading themselves. So this transition from board to screen has really been instrumental. Now, coming to the assessment and evaluation. Every education system has 4 major pillars. You'll agree with me. First is the curriculum. Second comes is your pedagogy, the art of teaching. Then next is assessment, and last is evaluation. So these are very important and basic 4 pillars of education. This year, due to unprecedented situations, though CBSE tried its level best that somehow the board exams for grade 10th and grade 12th should happen, they made all the necessary arrangements also, but unfortunately, it is said that man proposes, God disposes. God has his own scheme, and we should surrender to change. Else, we will also become dinosaurs if we will not evolve ourselves. Now, when we talk about the assessment system which was conventionally being followed for grade 10th, let us speak about the topic for which we are invited today. Today we are discussing about remodeling, rethinking the assignments and the evaluation process. In this way, when CBSE realized the unprecedented and challenging times, they took a call to cancel grade 10th examinations. So it led to a lot of hue and cry that how would the children be evaluated? Then CBSE has proposed and come up with the solution of internal promotion policy, or you can say as internal assessment scheme, wherein under their kind control, the ball was given to the schools, the court of schools. Now, if we talk about our conventional process of assessments, grade 10, it is split in 2 parts. First component is of 20 marks, which was always internal assessment. Further split into the continuous assessments, where 5 marks were for the subject enrichment, 5 marks were allotted for the class tests, 5 marks were given for the we may say periodic test which we are conducting, 5 marks for the copy maintenances or some kind of projects. So this weightage makes it 20 marks, which was internally evaluated or assessed by the schools, and they used to upload this data to CBSE. Now, under this internal promotion policy, board kept this part intact as it is. Coming to the another major component of 80 marks, which was allotted to the year-end board-based examinations, which could not happen this year. This is the point to be understood, and I think today's discussion and all the eminent panelists after me, they are also going to speak and elaborate the same concept, so that we can disseminate the information and we can spread the light. So this 80 marks of year-end board-based assessment is replaced with the internal promotional scheme. How it is going to work? It is further split into 3 parts. Part 1, where the weightage is 10%. How this is to be calculated? Board has advised that conduct all the internal assessments in the form of class tests or IPT, internal periodic assessments. If any school has conducted during this given academic year, add all of them. Then there are 3 provisions. Either you can take best out of the performances, or it could be on the basis of average best. Let us say there were 2 class tests conducted by some school for a particular subject. Other schools have conducted 3 class tests per subject. So they can take the average out of 3, out of 2, one option. Second option with them was to take best out of the 3 or n number of assessments. Or number 4, third was that they can take a weighted average out of all. So this is to convert and to find out of 10%. Second, it is the 30% weightage. Now this 30% is for the midterm assessments. Generally, every school has a practice of conducting midterm assessment, which is held somewhere in the month of September, first week, middle or end of the September. Every school follows their own system. So here CBSE has recommended that for every subject, whatever midterm assessments you have conducted, again keeping into the mind same option 1 of average, best or weighted, you can convert that 50 marks, 60, 80, whatever school has followed, to 30%. So convert that midterm assessment to 30%. Moving on to the last slab, that is 40%. Now 40% is for the pre-boards. Irrespective, school has conducted 1, 2, 3 or n number of pre-boards. So based on the pre-boards, going with the same 3 options, either weighted average, or it is simple average, or it is the best out of the pre-boards. So club calculates the average and convert it out of 40. So 40 for pre-boards plus 30 for midterm, it makes 70, plus 10 for your internal periodic. This is how the 80 marks are now to be allocated by the school. Further, CBSE has also advised all the schools to constitute 8-member internal core committee. This committee would comprise of the principal of that particular school as acting as a chairman of the core committee, followed by 5 subject teachers of each subject teaching grade 10. 3 will be from like 1 from mathematics, 1 social science, 1 science, and in addition to it, 2 teachers could be of any languages depending upon the states. So these are 5 internal members to this committee, 1 principal, 6. Further, CBSE is also advised to ensure the standardization transparency, reliability, validity, flexibility, and to ensure the sanctity that two more members from some of the surrounding CBSE school who are teaching grade 10th should also be part of the internal core committee. So this is how a committee for 8 members is to be constituted. Now they will work hand in hand with each other to prepare the grade 10th result. In addition to it, CBSE has also kept one more thing in mind, that is the reference year, which is very, very important for all of us to understand, which is some bit confusing also. Now, reference year, last 3 years of the CBSE's examinations starting from 2018, that is 17-18, 18-19, 19-20. So what CBSE has done, since they have the result and entire data of all the previous years of all the schools with them, so independently CBSE has forwarded every school the reference year as a base for every subject, for mathematics, for science, social science, Hindi, or whatever 5 or 6 subjects every school has opted. So they have given them a benchmark, we can say. So out of these 3 reference years, the best average of that school will be taken as a benchmark. Let us say for mathematics as a subject, if for X school 2018, their mean average was 58. 2019, it was 60. And in 2020, it is, let us say, 62. So then out of these 3 highest performances in last year, that is 2000, so 2000 will become your benchmark for that particular subject. So now you have to set the range of your entire class. If there are 80 students who have appeared for your mathematics paper, they have further given a range. Pass percentage is, or pass marks out of 80 is 25 to 26. So they have given a range that how many students you have to set less than 26, then next range 30 to 40 range, then 40 to 50 range, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and so on. The last slab being 70 to 80. So we have to maintain the class mean average plus 2% or minus 2% close to that reference year. There can be a deviation nearly to 2 or 3%, not more than that. Now, in this way, schools will see independently that who were their brilliant top scorers genuinely. Because as a teacher, we know well, yes, these were really deserving children. You have been assessing them over the year. But of course, during this pandemic and online examinations, the entire class was a topper. But still, teacher has a fair idea. So now we have to set that range, that whom you want to keep in a bracket of 70 to 80. How many has to be set in the range of 50 to 60? How many at the range of just borderline or the passing line? Keeping into mind that overall mean average should come to that 60 or 61, what is a reference year base for you. So this is precisely from my side. Over to you, Mr. Rod.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for sharing those wonderful insights with us. As with anything that's new that comes up, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation that's floating around about this internal assessment scheme. Thank you so much for clearing a lot of that up. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have 3 eminent experts who have studied this new scheme in detail and are here today to share their expertise with you. Usually, this session typically takes the form of a group discussion. However, given the nature of today's topic, we felt it was best if we call them one by one and ask them to share their views on certain aspects of this new scheme. We're extremely privileged to have with us Dr. Rashmi Tyagi, who's an eminent educationist from Mumbai. Ma'am has been the director and principal of Modern English School in Mumbai. Her contributions across fields, both science, arts, literary, as well as in theatre, are too many in number to list out here. She's the proud recipient of the IUEF Stri Shakti Samman Award for the year 2020. Ma'am, it's a privilege to have you on this platform once again. I would now leave this to you to take the discussion to its next stage.
Namaskar and welcome everyone present here. Dear teachers, dear parents, and dearest students. The topic today, it is very relevant to the present context. And as you know, that the VUCA world is there. That means lots of volatility, then uncertainty, ambiguity, and all that. And whatever 3-4 words I'm using for VUCA, that is the reality of the present times. So in such a world, what we are supposed to do for the children, for the whole educational system. And here, first of all, I will like to salute our teachers, principals, and everyone connected to the education, because they survived and they won the test of time. The education is going on. The teachers have brought the students to their homes, and the students are learning. And right now, that is why we are here, so that we can discuss the examination method, the assessment method for today, for giving that certificate to the students of clearing the 10th standard. So for that, it is an assessment. Now we have to see, the assessment is for learning or learning for assessment. What I feel, it is, learning is important. So how much learning has taken place, that is more important. But still, due to some reasons, very important and mandatory reason, we have to give the passport or the certificates to the students. So now I just request the parents and the teachers and even the students that they don't have to feel anything, that it is not so easy. Actually, it is very easy to accept the present situation, and it should be in the favor of all of us. That there are so many definitions ascribed to the term assessment. Some educationists have defined assessment as the knowledge of the learner, what he or she can do and cannot do. So what is important? The learning. The assessment should provide feedback to the learner. That is more important. The person who is learning, he should, have this confidence in himself that he has learned. It should be diagnostic and remedial. Assessing students' performance holds value, not only for students, teachers, and parents, but is also important for school management, other educational organizations, and institutions and societies at large. In India and in many parts of the world, the assessment criteria to evaluate the students' performance is through standardized exams. We have already discussed, the Achin sir has discussed the importance of standardized exams. A student can go to the next class only if he or she has scored the required marks or percentage in the examination. Also, a lot of these questions now, the past, what we were doing, the board exams, it relied on memorizing of facts and the rote learning without much real understanding and application. So what I am doing, I'm trying to make it, clear that all of us should give importance to the learning and the real knowledge with the students. And here I always mention the Bloom's taxonomy, that we should give such a assessment to the students so that we can just teach them the analysis, the creativity, and problem solvings, and critical thinking and creative thinking. In fact, the learning should be able to make the students understand the causes and consequences of certain actions, or to develop confidence to make a right decision to solve the problem. He should be able to apply knowledge in new situation, to interpret information in context, and should be able to control the crisis management. So these are the things which are important. So we have to see whether all these things are being met when we are assessing the students. Then I think what is important right now to mention here, that we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Learn means last 20 years, I have taken so many trainings with the teachers, and we were teaching them how to make the result card. And we were telling them that do the formative assessment, and then they were giving some grades to the life skills and to vocational skills and to the values and attitudes. This is what we were teaching them. So they have learned this. Now the time has come. They have to unlearn certain things. Unlearn certain things means the new method they have to accept. Mr. Neeraj Puri has talked about it. So keeping the things which I have mentioned right now in mind, we have to, start with the new learning. And so this is learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that relearning has to be there. I want to give you one of my experience. I was, principal at Bharati Vidyapith, Mumbai, and then CCE system, continuous comprehensive evaluation, it came. And now I'm feeling we are facing the same situation. And the parents, they were, so much troubled, and even the students, that the new system, whether it will be good for the students or not. And that is what in the present scenario also, we find that revolutionary changes are taking place in the field of education in our country, not in our country, the whole world, changing state board to national board, changing board examination system to no board examination system is posing great challenges in school education. The principals of the schools, they are facing lots of problems in doing so. It is like changing the mindset of thousands of people, most of whom have preconceived notions of standardized exams. In India, the assessment criteria to evaluate a student's performance is through standardized exams. A student can go to the next grade only if he or she has scored the required percentage marks in the examination. Also, a lot of questions rely on memorizing a subject without much application. Therefore, standardized exams fail to assess the ability to apply knowledge in new situations. The new curriculum might not completely eliminate such standardized examination, as they have their own merits and are necessary for entry into meaningful assessment to students. To enhance their learning ability, we have to take the students beyond classroom, to let them learn by observing, experimenting, and experiencing, and they should be, encouraged to unfold their personality through co-scholastic activities. So this is what I want to say, that all my dear teachers and students, you should right now welcome the present changes, because in this assessment, whatever you have done throughout the year, continuous, and it should be presented in a comprehensive way. And as all of you know, my dear teachers, that throughout the year, during this pandemic period, you were conducting the classes, and through your online classes, you have completed the syllabus, you have given the exams to the students have made a lot of projects in science and in other subjects. So I feel that you have taught them in the best possible way with the new methodology, which I have discussed with you just now, the co-scholastic way. So that way you were giving them all these things, which is required, for their future also, because we should teach them something which they can use it for future, not the rote learning. So this is what I feel, that if you accept it this way, because the same thing as I told you, when I was at Bharati Vidyapit, we were facing, and then we accepted it, and there was no board system was also introduced by CBSE that time. They have given an option that some students, those who don't want to appear for the board examinations, maybe due to fear or whatever, they can, just appear for the internal examination conducted by the schools, and the certificate which was being awarded to them, that certificate was same as it was for the students who were appearing for the board exams, and nowhere it was written that this was the internal board exam conducted by the schools. But during the admission process in the 11th and 12th, when somebody wanted to know about whether it was that kind of examination, I mean the board examination or internal assessment, that the principal was able to tell whoever wanted to inquire about it. So it is nothing new, nothing to fear of it. We were already conducting it, in 2010 and some more years before the new remodeled structure was given by the CBSE of 2018. So it was already there, and we have done it successfully. So nothing to worry, only we have to take care, the learning should take place. And the ICSE board is also following the same method, and they are doing lots of, internal assessment, and the international boards, they do the internal assessment. They don't do these kind of exams where the students have to write the exams, after memorizing. So we should just now welcome it, and we should look forward that our student should get the required documents so that they can be promoted to the next level. And then, maybe in future it will be there. And I think it will be very good if the rote learning will not be there, and lots of experimentations, excursions, and such kind of, teaching learning will be there. This is what I feel. And now, some very good principals, and they are waiting, as Shubhayu has told us. So this is what I could tell the parents, the students, and the teachers, with all my best wishes to them. So you can take over the next speaker and the panelist. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I wish all the best to all the people present here, especially the students, because a justice will be done to them. So they don't have to fear anything. The parents should be confident. As per the present times, everything will be good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Like always, we stand to benefit from the wealth of your experience and expertise. And every time that you have come here, ma'am. We've always been in awe of the phenomenal depth of knowledge that you have on any topic that you speak on. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have Dr. Shilpa Jejurkar. Dr. Shilpa Jejurkar is the principal and the chief academic officer at the Amber International School in Thane, Mumbai. She comes with a rich experience of 25 years in the field of education. With English and social science as her core subjects, her career spans over a considerable period in various capacities with many milestones to her credit. After completing her PhD in behavior counseling and MPhil in economics, she completed her postgraduate diploma in educational leadership and management from IITT in UK. Later, she completed her master's in education from Mumbai University and is also an MA in English literature. She was awarded the prestigious Acharya Chanakya Shikshavid Samman 2020 by the organization Fun to Learn. She's also been the recipient of the Green Educator Award at the Climate Conference New York City in September 2018 and the Innovative Principal Award at International School Awards Dubai in December 2018. Ma'am, we are privileged to have you here with us today. We have a certain question for you, ma'am. With your valuable experience with teaching and academia, could you please walk us through the method of choosing the right parameters for compilation of the score for a particular candidate? One thing that we have understood is any assessment is going to take into account multiple parameters. How are these parameters chosen?
Sure. First of all, a very good evening and thank you once again, Notebook and all other dignitaries here to give an opportunity again to speak on this wonderful platform. I have already spoken once, and Shubhayu, I remember it was a very good discussion we had last time. And today I think we all are here to decipher the compilation of how CBSE has given us lots of instructions of how we are supposed to send the marks for the grade 10 board examination, since we couldn't conduct the board examinations due to the pandemic. And Mr. Neeraj Puri has already given us a brief idea about how CBSE has instructed us to do. I would like to share a PPT if you please allow me to do so.
Sure, ma'am. You should be able to share your screen.
I can share my screen?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. So this is just a presentation on the tabulation of marks, what CBSE is expecting from the principals, and most of the points have already been discussed by Mr. Puri. I'll just rush through the PPT and make few points a little more clearer. Sorry, it's not moving.
Ma'am, it's actually in the PDF format. So yeah, if you could just scroll up and down. Thank you.
I need to scroll up, yeah. So we all know the background why we have got this policy, why we are actually giving the marks, why the school is supposed to give the marks instead of the board examinations. So this I'm not going to discuss again. And what is the objective also, we all know, this entire policy runs on the 4 key principles of an evaluation, that is reliability, fairness, flexibility and validity. So in order to ensure the principals, school leaders and obviously the teachers will completely be involved in this evaluation process, and in fact all the stakeholders should understand what exactly CBSE means by this evaluation process. So as we all know, the marks are out of 100 and the students have to select 5 subjects which are the core subjects. They can go for a 6th subject which can be an additional subject. There are various subjects which schools offer, like IT and artificial intelligence has also come up now. There are many other subjects. So the total marks allocated for per subject is 100 marks. Out of that, there is a bifurcation of internal and external assessment. So the internal assessment marks are given by the school, which I think Neeraj sir has already discussed very well, how we are supposed to send the internal marks and which are the parameters and how much weightage is taken for every activity, like the subject enrichment activity, then there is portfolio management, lots of activities we conduct, and then we send the marks, 20 marks are sent to the board. Then the next is the assessment done by the board, which carries the weightage of 80 marks, which this year couldn't happen because of the pandemic. So this is what even Neeraj Puri has already explained, that is subject enrichment, multiple assessment, average of the 3 periodic tests which we conduct, and the portfolio. All these marks are sent by the school. We have already sent, there was a deadline given to us, and all the schools have already sent the internal assessment marks. Now the external assessment, that is the 80 marks board examination, which is conducted by for the students by the board, which this year we couldn't complete, and that is the reason why we all are working towards how we can assign those marks to the students and submit it to CBSE for declaring the results. So CBSE has given us the category of how we can divide the marks. So first 10 marks are allocated to the periodic test, that is the unit test whichever we have conducted. The 30 marks weightage will go to the half yearly or the term end examination which we conduct. 40 marks will be given for the pre-boards, whatever the school has conducted, maybe a pre-board examinations or a preparatory test or a practice board examination or a mock test. There are different names which a school gives to that test, and then out of those pre-board marks we have to send them the 40 marks weightage will go to CBSE. So all these are the parameters of different examinations. So here you can see the explanation is also given about how we can take the marks for the periodic test. Like if you have conducted 3 pre-board examinations, then either we can go for the average of the 3 or we can go best out of the 3. So suppose in pre-board 1, 2 and 3, if I am conducted 3 examinations, if in the pre-board 3 the child has performed well, I'll send the pre-board 3 marks. Or if the child has done fairly well in all the 3 examinations, 3 pre-board, we can take an average of the 3 marks and then we can send them to the board. So this is one method which CBSE has told us to send the marks for. Secondly is we need to constitute a result committee. Now the result committee consists of 8 members. There should be a committee of 8 members in which 5 members will be from the same school, which are the core subject teachers like mathematics, science, social sciences and the 2 languages. So most of the school English is our compulsory language. In most of the schools we have Hindi, Marathi, Sanskrit, Malayalam, Kannada. These are the regional languages given as a choice for second language. So in that case they can select the second language teacher as the part of the result committee, and then we need 2 teachers who will work as an external committee member, and those 2 teachers should be within 12 kilometers of our own school. So in the 12 kilometer radius of our school, whichever is the CBSE school, you can approach that CBSE school whose students were supposed to write or are going to write or already have written the grade 10 examinations, board examinations. So those two teachers from that school will be added in this committee. They will be the external committee member. So it will be like 5 plus 2, and principal is the chairperson of the committee. So that this is an 8 members result committee which will be formed by every school. Post that there will be a lot of discussion happening between this result committee. So there will be discussion about which how the marks have been given, which tests have been conducted. We have already sent a Google form. A Google form had come to us through our district coordinator, and in that Google form every school was supposed to mention how many periodic tests we have conducted, were we able to conduct the half yearly test, how many pre-board examinations we have conducted. All these we have already sent to the board, and based on that only this this particular entire policy has been framed. So after a discussion with the result committee, then we will discuss about it. Really, if there are any students who have not written the pre-board, especially because of this pandemic, there was many students who had gone to their villages and native places and they were not able to write the pre-boards. So in that scenario, the CBSE has also given us time to take the examination of such children and then give the marks. Then there is a very interesting component called reference year. So every school will have a reference year. For example, if a school has 3 batches of grade 10 passed from the school, then what we have to do is we have to take the best result of any particular year. For example, 18-19, suppose 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, these are the last 3 batches, and in the last 3 batches, if I have for 19-20 I have got overall average result as maybe 90%, and for other 2 years it was less than 90, then I can take that particular the best result or the highest result as a reference year, and then the data will be available for 2 years, and the best performance out of the 2 years for only 1 year, the same will be taken. So accordingly we have to see whichever was the best result, and accordingly we will have to compare between this year's result which we have prepared and the best result of our school. Comparison will be done, and we have to see that marks should not go beyond that particular highest average. And for the first timers, the schools who have not sent their children for board examinations even once, or maybe they wanted to the students would have sit for this year, for such schools CBSE has provided the reference year, and the other historical performance details. Now there is one more component called historical performance and assessment standardization, which I think Dilip sir would be discussing it very well with us in the next in his talk, because it involves a lot of mathematics and he is very good in that. So he will discuss the assessment standardization, how the mean and other things has been taken by CBSE, that he will explain us in a very easy manner. Yeah, and there is again one more thing, that if a candidate has not appeared in any assessment, that has happened because of the pandemic, students were stuck and they were not able to give any assessment. So in such cases we can conduct online and offline examinations for such students, and then it can be anyways. They have also given us the telephonic assessment option. If the child is out of the network zone or not able to doesn't have any access to internet, we can also have a telephonic assessment. And if any candidate has a benchmark disability and has not appeared in any assessments conducted by the school, and nor has he taken any activities or on the basis of which we could give him some marks, like no portfolio preparation, no presentations, no quizzes, nothing at all. For them also there is a this given by CBSE, that we can give them some opportunity, we can give them some time and tell them to give us all these evidences, perform such activities and give evidences. And then the finalization and uploading of marks and online system. CBSE is going to send us a online portal on which we need to submit all the marks and submit it to the board.
Dr. Jejurkar, are you there? I think there's a bit of a connection loss. Ladies and gentlemen,
it's become very easy for us to understand how it has to be online. And
Dr. Jejurkar, if you can hear me, I think, ma'am, the connectivity is a bit of an issue at your end. If you could please unmute yourself and continue, ma'am. You'll have to share your screen once again.
I hope it was clear that we have to send the marks as per the given parameters. And yeah, I also would like to tell you about ICSE, what ICSE has done. So ICSE given ICSE has made it very simpler. ICSE is asking only the average marks of students, paper subjects scored by the concerned candidates in the examinations conducted by the school at the class 9. So since 9 and 10 is a 2-year course, we always take 9th and 10th as a 2-year course. So ICSE is asking for grade 9 marks also of the academic year, and in percentage form out of 100. And they're also asking for the average marks of papers per subjects scored by the concerned candidates in the examinations conducted by the school at the class 10 level. So ICSE has made a little more simpler way of taking marks from the schools. They are asking for the grade 9 and grade 10 marks together, whereas CBSE is only asking us to give them the grade 10 marks. Now, looking at all these scenarios, a very good question was asked in one of the discussions day before yesterday. A parent had asked, like, suppose 10th board examinations we have already scraped, pandemic is still going on, and what is the future of children? Especially those who would be writing the competitive exams, they would be they are aspiring to go to IITs and medical careers. So in such scenarios, or even there are many children who would like to pursue higher education abroad. So if there are no examinations conducted, how are we going to judge them, or how are the universities going to take the students? So a very nice question was asked, and what I feel is, in the coming future, taking board examinations or any sort of examinations are going to stop, and it will be like, how good is your portfolio, or how good is your profile. And instead of the marks, it will be the weightage should be given for all the activities what your child has done. So right from grade 6, you should involve your children in a lot of other activities. It will be checked whether the child has some social responsibility. What has the child done towards society? What has the child done for his own school, for his parents, for others? So it is like profile building has to be done, and the child has really worked in any area of his own interest. For example, if a child is interested more in doing masters in environmental engineering, has he worked something in on that particular scenario in his school life or in his maybe the junior college life? So has he done something, worked with some NGO who's working for environment? So all this profile building will is going to help students to get admissions abroad, because finally it is, universities are not going to see how many marks you have got. It is like what exactly are you going to give back to the society, what exactly is the child's of has this in how much design thinking has it done, how much problem solving has it done for others. So finally it is the spiritual quotient which is going to be very important, and not the emotional or the intelligent quotient. So how spiritually the child is connected with his own people, with his own country, what is his idea of giving back to the society, that is going to be counted the most. So I think somewhere marks are going to be not the most important parameter of education now, and then we need to help children in building their own profiles now in the coming scenario. So that's also Subhaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for clarifying on the structure. And I think that last bit that you said, that marks will stop being the most important outcome of our education system. Well, that is something that I think every student really, really wishes that would happen. Thank you so much, ma'am. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it is the time for what you've been waiting for with so much of eagerness. This is the part where we really get down to deciphering the code. Because clearly, CBSE has created a system that invites all of you to become Sherlock Holmes for a little bit and discover what brilliant maths that you'll have to do to find that reference code. For that, we have with us Mr. Dilip Kumar Das, who's Principal and Director, Tapovan Group of Schools in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Sir has been a CBSE Affiliation Inspection Committee member. He has been imparting teachers training for years now, and he has been working with the Quality Control of India, QCI. Sir, it is our privilege to have you with us today. I shall leave it to you for you to decipher and decode that very special bit of maths that CBSE wants everybody to do now.
Good evening to all. Good evening, Notebook, Subhayu sir, Rashmi madam, Shilpa madam, and all the participants. But I saw here participants become less because I am in class. But am I audible to all? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. So I am here to discuss the notification of CBSE, how the teachers and principals they will do, because now it is a hot topic in all over the world. The people are discussing how it can be done, and n number of questions were there, and all questions sorted out. Only 4 to 5 questions remain. That today only Swayam Bharadwaj sir, he clarified that he will give its FAQs on Monday or Tuesday. Today it was there by 12 o'clock and we all attended that. Monday or Tuesday he will give us. So that what are the points just I am discussing now. What points he said and that I am discussing now. He talked about that people, all principals about of the from India and abroad, they all asked the question, sir, what about the second language? Because in notification, second language is not given. What to be done? So in general, I was also presuming that. So in general, what he said, if your reference year mark what has come, with that you have to adjust your marks. But still then they will clarify this and they will write all the points and what mark on basis of what. Because in middle what happened? All arrows, Ajmer, Pune, Chennai, all arrows, Dehradun, all regional office of CBSE, they said that this mark should be taken as the 6th subject mark. How we were taking the 6th subject mark? This all I am talking from this is technical basis. So the teachers please understand, when you will do the work, you will, because all teachers have to do the work. Principal only the guiding force, and teachers have to do the work. So please, teacher, understand this. Your what all ROs are saying now, they are saying all highest three subject mean supposed to be given to 6 subjects. This is one it is told. Again, they said in case of second language, you do that. But people are not agree to it. How it can be? It is not possible, sir. So he has taken this, he has written note, he said that yes, we will think over it. This is one point. Second point about the mathematics. Just today, yesterday, Delhi government, NCT, he gave one FAQs. In that FAQs, what he said, he asked the question here. Because mathematics standard and basically divide, last year only it came. Mathematics standard basic, it was not there before that. So if which years are before year, suppose your reference is year 17 or 18, so how will you do 18 or 19? That time mathematics standard basic was not there. So he clearly said, all of you have to take based on the standard mathematics. You can give the mark to any student. Mark, yet some questions came that, sir, in reference year, some points are there that when the your percentage is coming, suppose your 70 to 80, no student was there last year. But this year, definitely student may come. So whether we will give or not there, because my school last year no student was there. This year student will be there or not? So the question he answered, yes, you may take, but what you have to do, you have to calculate. If you are taking some students in higher rank, some student you have to take in lower range also. This is general calculation. But your mean overall mean calculation. Suppose one calculation I am saying, my overall mean calculation is 60.86. With all calculation counted out of 80 only. Whatever 80 mark you have, your student have got last 3 years, that years. And my school has come that out of 80. 60.88 it has come. So 60.88, I have to calculate all the things and I have to bring the mean to 60.88 only. I cannot change it because that mean calculation of your reference year mark is a benchmark. That's it. Yes, there is a point also. In they have given reference here some percentage. What the percentage? I am just reading that. How they have given the reference year percentage. Some reference year percentage, if they have given reference year percentage, suppose basic mathematics, my year for me basic mathematics was 40 point something, and social science 60 point something, and science 55 point something, English literature 61 point something. So these things I have to maintain. Now whatever mark I am giving, these points, whatever the mark with me, because I have already got as a reference here, this mean mark I have to maintain. So all school principals are supposed to maintain that mean mark. They have to maintain the mean mark, whatever. But here he said one point. You may change the mean mark 2% plus or minus. But I supposed to say to all principals, those who are here, those who are listening, they may extend a little bit more. But you have to see that your overall point, as I told, my school overall point is 60.88, 60.88. So I have to see my overall point should come 60.88. And this mean mark I'm a little bit increased. I saw that my one student of my school, he is getting very less mark. He's coming down out of 70 to 80 range. He is not there. I have to bring it. I am principal. I have to bring it. So yes, you can bring. You have to see the mean mark. If mean mark also it is coming more than little bit to +2, you can take +3. There is a no problem. But if you are taking +2 or +3, you are adding. Your suppose that mean mark is 55.81. So you can take 57.81 or 58.81. You can take. Same that at that same time, other students or other subjects, the students supposed to go down, or same subject, other group of students supposed to go down, because CBSE is divided in the group. One is below 26, or 26 to 40, 41 to 50, 51 to 60, 61 to 70, 71 to 80. He has divided this, and in this, how many students are coming, you have to calculate. That the principal, your committee, the committee should calculate all the points. After calculating, he has to give the mark. So, what I suggest all of you, no problem. Wait till Monday or Tuesday. They will give the FAQs, and in that FAQs, all this calculation part, whatever the point, 1 2 points, nothing else. 1 point is there for basic mathematics and standard mathematics. What's supposed to be done? Because two mathematics were not there that time. My school has come in this year 2018. If my school has come, so there was no basic and standard. So what shall I do? That is a confusion for all the schools. So they have to give. They will give the same. Next point: English literature. And now it is coming to 184, 101. Communicative English was there that time. Before that time, communicative English and English literature, these two subjects were there. So what's supposed to be done in these two subjects? That is also same dilemma. They said that they are going to consider these two cases and how it can be done. They will give its point. But most of the principals generally what they are asking, whether we will stick to this parameter or not. Yes, all of you have to stick to the parameter +2, -2. Here they said that there is a little bit flexible. You may stick, may not stick, but your overall point, overall parameter should be the same. Overall parameter, whatever is given, that should be done. This is one point. Second point, I am coming to about the flexibility. The CBSE is giving lot of flexibility, lot of chance to giving to all schools. So they have taken that. They have given that if the student is not has not appeared whole year, he has not appeared, what to do? Yes, the student has not appeared whole year. Now only you give a telephonic call and take that their test. Any student who has not appeared, his test can be taken now. There is no problem. Sir, how to give mark? Yes, give the mark. Write in rationally document. Rationally document is in annexure 2. That annexure to rationally document. So that document should be filled out. Whatever you are doing, whatever the school teachers are doing, what they are deciding, please write down clearly. In rationally document, if you are writing all points, so there is no problem. But in case of rational document, he has given in your section B. Rational documents, section C he has given. In case of more than test conducted, basis of marks, you can section C completed. Section D he said that in case school has not conducted all three categories of test, exam, reason for weightage given different tests or exam may be indicated. This is rational document B section. So it is clear to all that you write down whatever you are feeling that yes, I supposed to do this way, my committee is supposed to do this way, so you can do this. Yes, one point here, Your external committee members or internal committee member, no need to call them here. Now it is a pandemic. The student, the teacher should not come to school. If you are feeling now, because pandemic time, this is a dangerous situation, so no teacher should come. You can take virtual meeting or directly you can give. This is about the section D. Now come to section E. Section E says that in case students have not taken all the exams, which assessment is based procedure adopted for the assessment, assessing students. चलो एक बच्चा he has not appeared any exam, so आपने टेलीफोनिक लिया ना, आपने डायरेक्ट वर्चुअल मीटिंग करके उसका क्वेश्चन आंसर उससे पूछ लिया और उसने भेजा कुछ आंसर आपने आपका ये के लिए रख दिया. ये सारी चीज you have to say, you have to write in that rationally document. This is rationally document is most essential. And now come to rational document F. In case of school assessment does not meet the distribution of mark, the average provided by the board per subject, as now I discussed about that. Suppose it is not meeting your average, what's supposed to be done in this case? In this case, whatever your committee decide, that write down. But my dear principals and teachers, committee decide means percentage, don't take more than 10%, 20% like this. You cannot take your reference here more than that percentage you cannot take. Just adjust it. What problem came to me? One of my students, he got 37 in mathematics. But one student I have to bring below 25. So I have to do it. I did it. This is because if I will not do, I will not come on that category. So I did it. Hence, it is required that all principals supposed to adjust this. This is, and after that, you can write your final proceedings. So what I supposed to say in this case, so I took more time perhaps. So I expect from all principals and teachers that no problem at all. CBSE is a flexible one system. So with that system, you thoroughly do the homework, because this is now principal and teachers are applying real mean. This is a competency-based education. What we are telling, we are teaching competency-based. Rashmi Tyagi madam also, she was saying that competency-based education, this experiential learning, art education, all. Now principal are also doing this practical-based education of mean. What, how mean should be taken, how it will be done, how it will be adjusted. All these things are practical things. Thanks to CBSE, they have given this. So thank you. Thank you, notebooks, sir. Subhai sir, thank you. Achin sir, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think your inputs have clarified to a large extent a very, very confusing topic, because we've had a lot of requests for this particular topic to be discussed for the last few days. Thank you so much, sir. Well, Achin, I think we've had some great inputs from some very eminent panelists today. So you'll have a lot to thank for. I shall leave this to you now. Achin, over to you.
So I think a really great session we had. Burrett sir, thank you for giving us a great start, for sharing your insights. I also sincerely thank all our esteemed panelists, Dr. Rashmi Tyagi, Dr. Shilpa Jejurkar, Neeraj sir, and Dilip sir. Indeed, and my special thanks to Dr. Tyagi for taking initiative and arranging this whole session. You know, I honestly believe that as far as the quality of discussion in this webinar was concerned, there was great clarity of thought. So I also saw that all esteemed speakers, all of our panelists deliberated on different aspects of the topic. And I'm sure our esteemed educators who attended today's session will find value and takeaways from this. And I'm sure if this is useful to them, then all our efforts are worth it. I thank all of you for sharing your knowledge, for such great clarity of thought in terms of your deliberation. And I guess, as Neeraj sir very rightly mentioned, and I was also looking at questions that some members of the esteemed audience had put up and the responses to the same. I think given the current situation, the current constraints that the entire world is facing, and of course we as a nation, as a society, what we are going through, in that, I guess indeed boards have taken a very practical view of the matter and try to work things out, keeping the best interest of students in mind. I indeed understand that this is a departure from the conventional system, what has been happening for so many years. But of course, extraordinary circumstances at times do call for innovative and out-of-the-box solution as well. I thank all of you. I thank members of the esteemed audience for their time, for attending today's session. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you, Achin.
Thank you, sir.